All right, in this demonstration, I want to show you how you can make some basic templates in Illustrator with different artboards so that you can do your exploration study for the point line plane assignment. Okay, so first thing is when you open Illustrator, you're going to click on this Create New button, or you can also go to File and then go to New. And you're going to see something that looks a little bit like this, okay? And then what you first want to do is make sure that you've got your width set to 7 inches, okay? And then your height is also set to 7 inches. And then this number is probably going to say 1 where it says artboards. You need to increase that to 6 artboards. And if you want more, you can have more, but I'm going to recommend 6. That's what's required. And where it says preset details, right here where I have this highlighted, that's actually where you can put the title of your file. So I'm going to just paste something in and I'm going to explain it. So the first thing is says study 1. We're going to have several different iterations of this process. So this is going to be the first set in the study. So it's going to be study 1 dash identical, and we're going to start with point. Okay, and then dash, and then it says last name. So you'd put your last name right there. And I'd like for you to use this naming convention so that everybody's is the same. Now, don't go down here and hit create. What I want you to do is where it says more settings, I want you to click that. There's something else that you also need to do, which you will find very helpful later. So everything is going to be set the same except for where it says spacing. Yours is probably going to say some decimal point for the spacing. I'm going to recommend that you actually set your spacing to about 3 inches, anywhere between 2 and 3 inches. And the reason for that is because later, whenever you have things that, what we're going to do with it later when we duplicate these files, you might have some things going outside of the artboards and you don't want the artboards to interfere with one another. So go ahead and leave the spacing at 3 inches, and you're going to have 3 columns, and then just leave everything else alone and then click on create document. And then it gives you something that looks like this. I'll zoom out. Okay, now one of the things that I want to show you right off the bat is that if your workspace doesn't look like mine, what you can do is go ahead and do what I'm going to do. Go up to Window and Workspace and click on, you want to make sure first of all that it's Essentials that you're using, but I'm going to go down here where it says Reset Essentials, and then it's going to go back to sort of the factory default, and everybody's interface is going to look the same. So what I'm going to do over here is there's a little button up here, these 2 little arrows. I'm going to click on that. If I hover, it says expand panels, and then it expands the panels so that you can see them. So if you've never used Illustrator, this is something that you're going to have to get used to using in this class, because vector graphics are sort of a key critical component to graphic design. So one of the things you'll notice right off the bat is you can click in between where these little bars are separating the different panels, and you can drag them open and closed. I'm going to click down here. Actually, I'm going to double click where it says layers at the bottom tab, and then I'm going to pull this up. Let's see, there we go. Because layers is, to me, one of the most important ones. There are a lot of other things, but we're going to use layers a lot. The other thing that you can do is you can undock these. So if I click and drag this tab over here, what it does is it separates the layers from everything else. And I also am going to click on artboards, and I'm going to dock it next to layers, see how it highlights it. So that's one of the things that's kind of cool that you can do, is that you can start to dock your tabs together. And this is trying to tell me about a new feature, so I'm just going to close this. It's not something we're going to be using right now. So anyway, I can navigate back now between layers and artboards, and I have all this other stuff over here too. So, but for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to minimize this a little bit. I'm going to collapse it actually with these these arrow buttons over here. Arrows, I should say. And then I'm going to leave layers and artboards open. You can do this however you want. All right. The other thing that's important is this thing over here on the left. It's the tool panel, and it's going to have all the tools that you would need to use. Now, if you double click here, you see that it goes into a single column, but the tools at the very bottom are being cut off on my screen, so that's why it allows you to double it up like that, so that you don't lose your tools when you don't have the real estate. Something else that I can do on a Mac is I can click and drag this and hold it, and I can undock it so that if you need more space, for instance, over here in your this is called the pasteboard, in the pasteboard area, then you can move this so that it's out of the way. That's up to you. I'm going to sort of close this window, or the layers window, a little bit. I popped it open by accident. And you might find that the space in between these is a little awkwardly large. Later, based on some of the things that you might do with the document as it evolves, that's going to be helpful to have all that extra space. So don't worry about that right now. Okay, before we start drawing and going any further, the thing is I'm going to have you use this for more than just the point assignment, this basic kind of outlay, this template. So there's some things that you can do that'll actually make your life a little bit easier later, which is kind of cool. All right, so right now we have this saved as, I don't know if we actually saved it, but you can go ahead and save this file as, you know, study one, identical point, last name with your last name there, .ai. Go ahead and save that, all right? But what I'm going to do is I want to show you something different where you can go, because later you can go back and you can open this file again, or you can just continue with it after we do what we're about to do. But I want to show you how you can make a template file, a true template out of this. So if I go to File and say Save As Template, okay? I want to do Save As Template. Then it gives me an option to save it in like blank templates. All right, here's the thing though. If you save it in where it wants to save it, it's actually in the Adobe Illustrator CC folder, in the applications folder and stuff. You don't want to save it there. You actually want to save it, especially if you're, well, if you're at a school computer. If you're at home, you can save it there if you want, if you're on your own personal computer. But if you're at school, you want to save it somewhere else. So let's go ahead and save this. Let's go to, I'm going to go to the desktop, and I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm going to call this Project 1 Templates. Yeah, templates like that. I actually realized that I actually haven't saved anything just yet. Okay, so what I can do then is I'm going to go ahead and save it, and where it says identical point, right now I'm just going to say blank. Okay, so study one and then identical blank last name.ait. Okay, and that means it's an Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator template. So I'm going to save it in Project 1 Templates, and let's go ahead and hit save. Okay, and so now what I can do is I can go and do File, Save As, and then instead of saving it as an AIT, I can actually go back and save it as Adobe Illustrator, and instead of blank, I'll go back and I'll call it point. Okay, and I'm going to save it here in my templates. I'll hit save and I'll say okay. All right, and now I'm back to working on my identical point. All right, and I can get, you can, you know, go to the next demonstration from here and get started in just a second. But what I really want to show you how to do, which is kind of cool now, is that if I want this identical layout, I can go up here to say File, and I say New from Template like this, and then I can go where it says oh, see, I don't want to go there. It's trying to go back to the default template folder. I want to go to the desktop where it's called Project 1 Templates, and then I'm going to choose this one called .ait at the end, and I'll click on New, and you see what it did is it created a new file that is identical to that other one with the name of Untitled, and then that's whenever, if I were to just go and save it, I'd go File, Save As, or just save, whatever, and then I can name it. Instead of naming it identical point, I'm just going to click that so that it grabs the whole name, and then I'm going to say line. Okay, and so now I will have a blank line template, and then if I go over here to File, New from Template, right here, and I'm going to go navigate to where that AIT file is. Okay, there we go, and then I'm going to say File, Save As, and then I'll click one of these just so I can get the majority of it, and then Instead of point or line, I'm going to say plane. Okay, like that. And you can keep doing that. And so if you've got something like where you know that you're going to have all these different iterations, you can do something like this. Now, the thing that's kind of a trick is that this isn't, when you start making these designs, it's not going to be laid up, all together on a piece of paper. But the reason I'm having you do this study this way is because later you can go and you can save your artboards out as discrete separate files, which is pretty cool. You can save them out as picture files and stuff like that, and it'll actually crop out the edges, which is really nice. Okay, so that's one of the reasons that I have you setting it up like this. So anyway, I'm going to end this demonstration here, and then what you want to do is pick up on the next one where you'll go back and open this point file, and I'm going to show you how to start generating the shapes that you need for the exploration study.